Director Comey, for 14 months, it's been the consistent excuse of this administration that the reason members of Congress do not have access to the survivors of Benghazi is because of the FBI investigation. I mean, you're aware of that, correct?
I'm not, Senator. I'm not. I don't know whether the prosecutors would feel differently or there's some other reason I'm not thinking of. But speaking from my perspective, yeah, I don't have an objection to that.
Well, that's interesting. New FBI Director James Comey seeming to directly contradict the main White House argument against letting Congress talk to the survivors of the Benghazi terror attack. Each week we ask you to vote online for your favorite Friday lightning round topic. This week you chose Benghazi, and we're back now with a panel. Well, that comment from the FBI director, Steve, comes just as Congress is beginning to gain more and more access to the survivors of the attack. Is it your sense that we're gaining a different understanding than the White House narrative about what happened that night?
I think in some important respects we are, particularly from the 3 survivors, CIA-affiliated survivors, who testified yesterday. I think they raised some questions about the timelines, but there were also additional questions raised about these non-disclosure agreements, which the agency had insisted were not presented to Benghazi survivors. There was no effort to try to keep them from talking. And we find out that these non-disclosure agreements, which were legally unnecessary, were presented to Benghazi survivors at a Benghazi memorial held at the CIA headquarters at Langley. Now, they didn't mention Benghazi specifically, but you tell me what you think that the message was intended to send. I think between that and between the news today on the State Department, the idea that the rewards for justice rewards were actually authorized but never announced or publicized, which defeats the entire purpose of having the awards in the first place, suggests that the administration is reeling. I have no idea why they would make these kinds of mistakes unless there was something that they don't want to disclose.
Charles, briefly, your reaction to that, and also you just heard FBI Director Comey basically saying, I don't have any problem with Congress talking to the survivors.
Well, it completely undercuts the administration's story. The administration can't even get its story right in this Stonewall. And if you don't, that doesn't help you a lot. I'm not particularly impressed by the bounty, the $10 million that was offered. We had CNN and we had the New York Times speaking with one of the people involved in a coffee shop in Benghazi just a few months ago. So instead of a bounty in the millions, how about an expense account? Send a journalist and we'll find those guys.